thank all of our fans who are joining us on Mariners.com or at Mariners or via our partner 710. So thank you. A quick reminder to everyone, if you do have a cell phone, we'd appreciate if you turn it to silent or vibrate. And with that, I'm going to introduce the head table. I think you know everyone up here. John Stanton, our chairman and managing partner. Jerry Dipoto, the president of baseball operations. I hope you all know Luis Castillo. Freddie Llanos from our group, who's going to help us if we need any translation today. You should all know Justin Hollander, vice president and assistant general manager. And Rafa Nieves from Republic Sports. So with that, John.
Great. Thanks, Tim. And thanks all of you for being here today. It's an exciting day to be a Seattle Mariner and an exciting day for our franchise, historic in many respects. Our mission is to win championships, to create delightful experiences for our fans, and to serve our communities. 5 years ago in the winter of 2018, we set out to make some important changes and make that commitment to winning championships, both a long-term and a short-term commitment, and today is evidence, further evidence of our commitment to do so. I'm incredibly appreciative of the work that Jerry Dipoto and Justin Hollander did to bring this deal in, and delighted, as I said to Luis and his family upstairs, delighted to have him as a Mariner for a very long time. Thank you very much. Jerry?
So with that, I'll talk a little broadly about some of what's happened here, with the Mariners in recent months. Obviously, dating back to August 2nd, when the trade deadline, shortly before the deadline, we were able to acquire Luis Castillo and bring him over from the Cincinnati Reds. And I think that deal was one of the real landmark events for us in this ongoing effort to build a championship team. And why I think that's important is because where we are today, this I think is another of those landmark events on the heels of doing our extension with Julio and J.P. Crawford and signing Robbie Ray and starting to create the foundation of this championship team, and now extending that and creating what we think is a sustainable championship quality core to move forward with. And Luis being here with us and joining what I think now is a very formidable pitching rotation moving forward. And it starts now, and it started, the beginning of this season, and what we're seeing over the course of the season is very exciting. I know the last week hasn't naturally felt that way, but this has been a wonderful journey for all of us, and this is just the next step. So, with that, I'm going to kick it to Justin and Rafa. Now, Justin, first I will tip of the cap to Justin and to Rafa for the work they did on this. They did this contract from beginning to end, and obviously we had to get Luis to get on board with it, and he seemed to like Seattle, so it was a good fit, and really thrilled with the work that everybody did to bring this together. Thrilled to have Luis part of the Mariners for this year and then the next 5 at least, and we look forward to what all that brings. But for that, I'll kick it to Justin and Rafa.
I don't really have much to add. I just want to thank Rafa and Luis. I think when we set out on this process, and initially Jerry and I approached Rafa to see if he had interest in doing something, it was important to everybody that we were good listeners. And we listened a lot. I think Rafa and I probably had 100 phone calls to get this done. So I appreciate his patience and obviously ownership's commitment to making this happen, and couldn't be more excited to get this done. So, Rafa?
Yeah, well, I agree with you, Justin. Thank you, Jerry, John, and everybody in the organization for believing in Luis, even before this contract. And yeah, I mean, I don't have much to add. I'll let Luis, say how he feels. But we're excited to be here for the next few years and try to get that championship for the city of Seattle.
Luis?
Yep. Say in Spanish. Bueno, contento por ya pertenecer a una familia aquí. Lo que hay que seguir tirando para adelante, trabajando duro y tratar de dar lo mejor de todo, de lo que tenemos en el corazón, para así tener la oportunidad de llevar el equipo lo más lejos que podamos y si tenemos que ganar la Serie Mundial estamos preparados para eso.
Just very happy that I'm finally able to join this family long term. Got to give everything my all, my heart and everything. And if we're prepared to win the World Series, then, let's get out there and do it.
Questions for Luis or the head table?
Jerry, when you first acquired Luis, did you envision that you'd be sitting here? I mean, like in the back of your mind, you have control, but maybe we might be able to make this work, or how did that happen?
Yeah, this was the plan. And, fortunately, again, Luis and Rafa made it a reality. But, we acquired Luis like we have built the rest of this roster with the idea that we were building something that we wanted to maintain over time. And, Luis is one of the best pitchers in baseball and has been for quite some time. And, what he's done since he's been in Seattle reinforced for us that he fit. And not just, and this is true with our club, not just what he does on the mound, but, who he is as a person, what he does in the clubhouse with our guys. There's I think he goes by the name La Piedra for a reason. There is a presence to Luis every day when he steps out there that is, it's good for our team. And as we build a championship, I guess a championship model moving forward, it's important to have players like that carry that presence.
Justin, how soon after the trade went down did you have the first conversation with Rafa about training?
I think it was our first call. Rafa was actually in Europe, and he called me to tell me that he was excited that we had acquired Luis and excited about what we were building, and that once he got back, he'd like to come up and just spend some time with Jerry and I and see if there was something that would work for both sides. Luis really valued stability was the message that we got. So he wanted to be in Seattle. He was excited about the first week, I think, at that point that he'd had with 40,000 Mariner fans cheering him on. It was it seemed like a pretty special environment to him, and we obviously worked really hard to make sure that it would be for a long time.
Luis, congratulations, first of all. But a year from now, you could hit free agency and been courted by 29 other teams. Why did you want to stay here? What stood out about the Mariners that you wanted to stay here long term?
Luis, muchas felicidades primero. En un año tú podías ser agente libre y firmar con cualquier equipo de la liga. Pero ¿qué fue lo que te convenció en poder quedarte aquí en Seattle?
Bueno, lo que más me convenció es la personalidad que hay aquí en esta organización. Al yo ver y venir y ver toda esa persona que siempre están unidas y un equipo que está compitiendo. A mí me gusta tener como esa sensación de que cuando yo vaya al montículo, tener y dar lo mejor que yo tengo para así poder llevar el equipo más adelante y competir todo el tiempo.
First off, the first thing that really caught my attention was the personality of the team. When I came in here and saw firsthand just the people here and how tight and competitive this team was, it was one of the things that convinced me the most. When I go up on the mound, I want to make sure that, I'm giving the best that I can to go as far as I can, but also have the guys around me, with the same motivation that I have.
Luis, when you think back to that first start here against New York and the atmosphere that was a part of this building that night, now that we're a little bit on, what do you kind of remember of that environment and the moment and that stage that you came in for your first time here in Seattle?
Cuando tu primer comienzo aquí fue contra Nueva York y obviamente la atmósfera, todo, había mucha energía. Ya estando aquí, ¿qué más recuerdas tú de esa noche, de tu primer comienzo aquí en Seattle?
Bueno, lo que yo más recuerdo esa noche que estaba un poquito nervioso porque primera salida aquí en Seattle y contra los Yankees, que es uno de los equipos que está compitiendo bien. Pero lo que más me emocionó fue la fanaticada, todos esos fanáticos, bastante, que yo no había pichado tantas veces así con esos fanáticos así. Lo más importante es que salí a dar lo mejor que yo tenía en mi brazo y gracias a Dios pudimos hacer buen trabajo.
The first thing that I remember that night was that I was nervous. I was nervous. It was my first start here in Seattle, and it was against the Yankees, one of the most competitive teams in the league. But the thing that really stood out to me were the fans. I haven't really pitched that much in some type of atmosphere like that with these kind of fans. And, lucky enough, I was able to go out there. The most important thing was went out there and gave the best that I could, what I had in my arm. And, blessed, and thank God we were able to get with the win.
Luis, how important was it to come in here after the trade, see the personality, like you said, see the culture, and recognize what they're doing here and try to win before committing long term?
¿Qué tan importante fue para ti llegar aquí, ver tú personalmente todo lo que el equipo estaba haciendo, la motivación, todo lo que están metiendo dinero, antes de hacer tu decisión de poder quedarte aquí más años?
Sí, lo importante es que habían, como está Suárez, está Winker, que yo jugué con ellos en Cincinnati. Sabes que cuando uno va a un equipo nuevo y tú no conoces a nadie, tienes que empezar de cero, hacer amistades con las demás personas. Pero cuando llegué al clubhouse vi esa motivación de todos los muchachos y puse en mi mente, bueno, yo tengo que incluirme aquí en este grupo y dar lo mejor que yo tengo sobre mí.
I mean, it was important when I came in here that I had Suarez and Winker. But when you come into a new team like this, you kind of don't know anybody. You kind of start from zero. So I saw kind of the relationships and everything that everybody in this clubhouse had, and I thought to myself, I got to be a part of this. And that was kind of the most important thing for me.
Luis, how different is going from Cincinnati, where it's a team you're building, losses to a team right now that is competing to get to the postseason? How different has it been for you? How exciting has it been?
¿Qué tan diferente fue para ti estar en Cincinnati, un equipo que se estaba reconstruyendo, a venir a un equipo como este que está peleando para meterse a los playoffs? ¿Qué tan importante y qué tan diferente ha sido para ti?
Bueno, lo importante es que tenemos que fajarnos más. Tenemos que fajarnos más, si damos el 100%, dar el 101% de tratar de ayudar al equipo lo más que uno pueda. Y en Cincinnati me sentía bien, ¿sabes? Yo cuando voy a mi montículo, yo voy a dar lo mejor que yo tengo. No importa en la posición que estemos, pero siempre voy a dar lo mejor que yo tengo ahí en la lomita y tratar de ayudar al equipo lo más que yo pueda.
One of the things was when I got here is I realized I got to focus more. We got to be more. If everybody's giving 100%, I got to give 101%. Give that little extra. In Cincinnati, maybe we weren't playing for the playoffs, but every time I went up on that mound, I gave my best to the team, everything I could.
Jerry, how much was this negotiation just working on a parallel path at the same time as you're trying to finish up Julio's role, and what were the difficulties in managing both those at the same time?
I'll kick to Justin, but the timeline here was roughly we started this conversation in earnest while we were in the last few days of wrapping up the deal with Julio. So Justin took the flag and charged up the hill with Rafa, and I worked from the background on that one.
The only reason I smiled a little bit is the day that Rafa came to visit, I believe, was the day we were finishing Julio. And so Jerry was running from office to office trying to wrap up what we thought were the last details with Julio as I was beginning the conversation with Rafa. And it's when you have players like this, what you think are the best players in the league and guys that have a chance to grow into the anchors, the guys that you hang billboards on the side of the stadium for, and you're doing those two things at once. I mean, it's a huge adrenaline rush, and to be doing two of them at once is exhilarating and exciting, and you're also very nervous when you don't want to make a mistake on those. But we had so much trust in the people to do these kind of agreements, and I think that means everything to us when you're going to make this kind of commitment, is your trust in the talent and the person.
You're starting rotation, you have Bobby and Luis locked up to one, got two young kids under club control. You have Marco, you still have Flex. I mean, I don't know that there's been a point where you've had this much stability in a starting rotation. How important is that going forward?
I mean, I've been around baseball a long time now, and I've never been with a team, either as a player, as an executive, as a scout, who had this kind of depth in terms of starting pitching from front to back. And, I feel like every day somebody runs out and takes the mound for us that has a chance to win that day. And that's an exciting thing for any team, is to believe in the group you're running out. And I feel like we are formidable in a way that we've never been before, that, in short seasons or short series and postseasons, we line up pretty well. We just have to figure out a way to get ourselves there, because we do have the personnel to line up and make anybody nervous with the kind of pitching we can throw out there on a given day.
Luis, you've seen Julio as a rookie and what he's been able to do this year here in Seattle. To know you get to play with him for the next five years here and have him behind you in center field, what does that mean to you knowing you've got this star playing alongside him?
Luis, he estado aquí con Julio en su primer año. ¿Qué tan motivación tienes tú saber que vas a jugar con la estrella aquí con los próximos 5 o 6 años con el equipo?
Bueno, cuando estábamos horas allá en Kansas City, que yo le dije la noticia de que me iba a quedar aquí por 5 años, le vi el rostro de alegría porque ya 5 años aquí juntos, más que somos de allá de República Dominicana, pero me siento contento de que voy a jugar por un largo tiempo con ese tremendo talento. Imagínate, es el rey de aquí de Seattle. Y me siento contento de que la organización tenga ese talento aquí y que es una persona que cuando va al terreno, él quiere dar 100% de como nosotros lo hacemos también. Y trata de ayudar y es una de las motivaciones que tenemos más en el dugout.
When we were in Kansas City, I told Julio that I was going to be here another 5 years. And I just saw his face light up because I knew, we were expecting big things. And, I mean, obviously we're both from the Dominican Republic, so we kind of clicked there. But, having him for the next 5 years is going to be great. I mean, he's the king of Seattle right now. And just being with him for the next 5 years, he's kind of the guy that motivates all the guys in the clubhouse. So having him around is just going to be great.
Jerry and Justin, you guys have come a long way from, that step back after the 2018 season. And over the course of these past 4 years, how important has it been to not just identify and acquire talent, but lock that up long term? You've got multiple deals with JP, Marcos. How important has that been for the lot of you guys come off?
I mean, this is why you undertake rebuilds or step backs, is so that when you come out of it, you have a chance to line up with cornerstone type players. And you don't want to do that for a year or two. We want to do this for a decade. So it needs the commitment from scouting and player development to develop some of those players internally. And then when you have a chance to acquire, Cy Young type talents in Luis, making sure they're here not for a year and a half, but for 5 and 6 years, that's kind of what you're aiming to do, is lining up and saying we can compete with anybody.
Yeah, and I think this is what we dreamed of when we went through the initial stage of that plan, was to build a young, strong foundation from which to grow, and then to go out and acquire impact players who could come in here and take us to that next level. And I think it's happening. It's happening for us right now. It's going to continue to happen for us, I hope, for the next month and a half or so. and then as we move forward, having these guys who are all in the primes of their careers or at the start of impact careers, it's incredibly exciting to have the kind of talent that we have right now, and it's incredibly gratifying to know that we have the backing of ownership, that as we got to this point and we were able to reach deals with Luis, with Robbie Ray, with Julio, with JP, keep that talent here in Seattle and continue to add rather than just sitting back and watching what we've done, because we haven't done anything yet. All we've done is created a pool of talent to move forward with.
Justin, are you working on any more than you want to talk about?
I'm going to go take a nap.
Referieron tu apodo, la piedra. ¿Qué significa la piedra para ti? ¿De dónde vino ese apodo?
Son tremendas 2 historias. La primera es un poquito larga. Cuando mi mamá ya estaba allá a finales de dar a luz, que estaba embarazada de mí, ella era como las 6 de la mañana. El papá mío estaba en la finca y cuando el papá mío llegó a la casa, encontró a mi mamá sentada en el piso con dolores. Entonces el papá mío fue corriendo a buscar un vehículo, fue donde la mamá de mi mamá, de mi abuela, y iban camino al hospital. ¿Sabes? Como esos viejos de antes, cuando mi mamá le daba el dolorcito en la guagua, mi abuela le ponía una piedra en la cabeza. de que eso le hace que el dolor se le calme un poquito, no sé a qué viene eso.
So there's two stories. One of them was when my mom was about to give birth to me, my dad was at work. So when he came home and found my mom on the floor, he rushed to get a car. That was where my grandma met us, and we rushed to the hospital. And every time that my mom had a contraction, my grandma put a rock on top of my mom's head to help reduce the pain. I don't know where that comes from. It was just kind of, it just kind of did that.
Sí. La segunda historia es cuando me cambiaron para Cincinnati, ¿sabes? Cuando uno llega nuevo a un equipo, tú quieres, cuando tienes el primer bullpen, tirar todo lo que tú tengas en el brazo. En ese bullpen yo estaba como 97, 98 millas en el bullpen. Y había un pelotero allá que me dijo como que está tirando roca, que está tirando piedra. Y cuando llegué al clubhouse, él me dijo que cómo yo tiro así tan duro, o sea, tira la piedra así tan duro. Cuando me llamaron a Grandes Ligas, la primera persona que vino en el clubhouse allá en Washington fue él. Y él fue la primera persona que me dijo bienvenido a la piedra.
So the second part is when I got traded to Cincinnati, I was in the bullpen. And obviously I was the new guy, so I kind of wanted to show everybody my stuff. So I was in the bullpen, throwing 95, 97 as hard as I can. So one of the guys there tells me, "You're throwing rocks out here," And when we went back in the clubhouse, he just asked me, how do you throw, you're throwing rocks out there, how do you do it? So when I was bumped up to the majors, he was the first one to greet me there, and he said, "Bienvenido a la piedra." ¿Quién era ese jugador?
Esa se llama Tim Allerman. Ya él no está en pelota, creo.
Tim Allerman?
Anything else for the head table? All right. I would bet almost anything these guys would be happy to hang around and chat with you if you have any follow-up questions. But thank you, everyone.
Well done.
The Mariners have acquired starting pitcher Luis Castillo.
They're getting the #1 starter. This guy knows how to pitch. Great move by Seattle.
0-2 on the way, swing and a miss. That electric fastball from Castillo.
6 consecutive strikeouts. Pump the fist.